Hello, this is Bill Steffen. Thanks for joining me on a little weather journey here. We certainly are dealing with a little bit of smoke out there from the wildfires, and we'll start out with a little bit of discussion on that. First, thank you to the Ottawa News Network. They had a nice write-up on the Coast Guard Festival, which I read. And if you want to give them, you can find them and see what they have to say there in Ottawa County. In terms of the smoke out there, it's kind of interesting. This is a satellite picture today, and you can see that kind of milky white that's over much of the state of Michigan. The air was cleaner as you got down toward Ohio, West Virginia, central Illinois. You can see the darker color there. We also had some high clouds overhead, too, and the combination of the smoke and the high clouds out there kept our temperature down just a couple of degrees from where it would have been otherwise. Interesting, we have one more day of the air quality alert for us that continues here this Tuesday, and that is 7 days in a row now that we've had an air quality alert for smoke. And I don't remember a lot of this when I was a kid, but of course then we had the smoke coming up from Gary, Indiana, from the steel mills where I was there in the Chicago area. An update on the fire situation. This is from Manitoba, which is where a good portion of the Canadian fires are right now. 19 fires there are rated out of control. That's up one from yesterday. There's 124 firefighters. There tend to be fewer on Fridays and Mondays. I must be giving some of them a day off. There's 8 water bombers, 52 helicopters, and 6 other aircraft now involved in fighting the fires just in Manitoba. And those numbers have been increasing here over the past week or so. Now, we do have a map that shows where some of the fires are located. You can see down at the bottom, North Dakota. Winnipeg is in Manitoba, and you can see there's a large chunk of fires that are burning east of Lake Winnipeg and northeast of the city of Winnipeg, and also north of Lake Winnipeg up in Canada. Some of these fires are started by human beings, one thing or another, and some of them are just started by lightning. You get a storm without a whole lot of rain, and that can initiate a fire. So they're in need of some steady light rain and no lightning up there, so they can get a handle on some of the fires going on. Fires in Canada have consumed nearly 4 million acres this year. It's been a really tough year for fires in Canada. And there have been nearly 4,000 separate fires that have been dealt with. So really kind of a tough situation. We have not had to deal with much of that in the United States, except for, of course, that bad fire out in Los Angeles. Look at high temperatures on Monday. The airports at Holland and Muskegon tied at 84 for the warmest reading. Sometimes when there's an east wind, the temperatures are actually a degree or two warmer at the airports there at Holland and Muskegon than they would be in Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo, and that was the case here yesterday. And look at how warm it was at the beach. Holland Beach was 79, not too different from Grand Rapids. South Haven Pier also 79. There's a weather station on the lighthouse there that reports, and you can actually see that data. That data is available to anybody. The Muskegon Beach reached a high of 77, and I had one empty space, so I checked out what the high temperature was at the South Pole. It's summer down there. Can you believe that? 54 below zero was their high. I think their low temperature was 58 below zero. So, wow. And an interesting place to be there. Of course, they're in perpetual darkness up there. While we have the long days during the summertime here in the Northern Hemisphere, they have the darkness for 6 months of the year down there at the South Pole. Our forecast for tomorrow, winds will start out east and may become variable or switch and come off the lake during the afternoon. Waves generally 6 inches to a foot. You can see the water temperatures are still chilly. We haven't brought the warmer water back to shore yet. Duck Lake, Hoffmaster, just 54 degrees for their water temperature. Holland State Park at 57. If you were looking at the webcams that show the beaches, there weren't a whole lot of people swimming. There were a few people getting their toes wet, and not much more than that. Reeds Lake Inland, still a very comfortable 81 degrees. Here's a look at the severe weather outlook for today. We've got a level 2 or marginal risk in the Dakotas. And then surrounding that, there is a green marginal risk area. That's level 1. We're white here in lower Michigan, and that means no thunderstorms, though there could be an isolated thundershower south of about Kankakee and Fort Wayne and Toledo. But even there, any activity would be, very widely scattered. And then we move ahead and look at our color changes to green over lower Michigan because there is at least an outside chance of a thundershower. Better bet for thundershowers here is going to come out in the Plain States in that dark green area. That's level 1. That's from northern Kansas up into southeastern North Dakota and the state of Minnesota. And a lot of showers and thunderstorms throughout portions of the south from Florida up into Alabama and Georgia. That's where there'll be the most rain. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is our 66-hour rainfall total. And you can see where the yellow and the red is. Far south Louisiana, Mobile to Atlanta, and from there on down toward Jacksonville, Florida. Albany, Georgia, places like that, Americus, picking up some heavy rain. And you can see the thunder showers that will be occurring up to Indianapolis and maybe Champaign, Decatur, Springfield, up that far. Generally, not much going on here. You can see the rains in the plains, especially up toward North Dakota and Minnesota. Now, one more map to show you. This is kind of interesting. I zoomed in about as far as I could, and there's actually one little level green area that's highlighted west of Clarksville. And I point this out because this 66-hour rainfall map that we show you here is kind of experimental. They've been working on it. They've been working to see if AI can improve forecasting. But I thought this is interesting because if we saw any rain, it would likely be on Wednesday or Thursday. And so if you are west of Clarksville, down toward the area west of Caledonia, north of Alto, Alaska, let's just see if a little shower pops up there. I would be really impressed if the model were to pick up on that. I don't think the models are quite that good to see something that far in advance, but it is in general trying to print out a shower or two developing maybe along the lake breeze here Wednesday or Thursday afternoon. And many people in Kent County, especially Ottawa County, Allegan County, southern Muskegon County, could use some rain. On we go. August 5th, our sunrise time at 6:38, sunset at 8:58. We have lost 1 hour and 1 minute of daylight now since the solstice occurred back in June. And you watch over the next month or so how the sun sets closer and closer to due west. The average low temperature dips 1 now. We're now at 82 and 62. Record high temperature for today, 100 degrees in 1947. The record low, 46 in 1978. That was the same year we had the big blizzard in January. Well, taking a look at tropical weather, some interesting developments here. We have Tropical Storm Dexter, well east of the United States, not affecting land areas, and it will slither off to the northeast and eventually just become a bunch of showers as it heads toward England and northwest Europe. There's a yellow hatched area there, and if you look down at the key at the bottom, that's a less than 40% chance of developing over the next 7 days. There's also an orange area there, and that is 40 to 60%. So there's a better chance that there'll be something developing off the African coast, and then it will curve to the northwest and probably miss the United States. So I'm not really worried about this one. The next storm, we go to the letter E, and that would be Aaron. Now, on the right side, we've got another tropical storm developing. First of all, we have Henriette, which is a tropical storm, not a hurricane. It's moving slowly to the west and far away from land. The next one we'll have to keep a little bit of an eye on. That one will be a little bit closer to the Mexican coast. The next one will be named Evo, E-I-V-O, Evo. So that will be coming online here fairly soon. And nothing much going on in the Indian Ocean or in the Western Pacific. In the Western Pacific is where there are more hurricanes than anywhere else. We call them typhoons there. But you can see we have TD, Tropical Depression Bailu, and that's going to be exiting east of Japan, not causing any problems. Nor is that depression there, 97W, causing any problems to anybody. The bright white areas are generally areas of convection, thunderstorm activity from Africa across parts of the what we call the intertropical convergence zone. where air from the northern hemisphere meets air from the southern hemisphere. You get a little bit of lift, so you get thunderstorms developing there. And interesting to be in. I was down in Venezuela once, and we saw a couple of those develop. Really pretty to see. Let's move on and talk about our headlines here. Partly to mostly sunny. There'll be some smoke in the air. No worse, though, than it was on Monday. There'll be a slight chance of a shower or a thunder shower Wednesday afternoon. And if you need rain, I hope you get some. And light winds. Over the past 3 days, with the average wind speed in Grand Rapids has been 3 miles an hour. That's all. This is the time of year we call it the dog days, because dogs tend to kind of be sleepy and sit around much, and this is what happens. And we get days like this in stretches where we have very little wind. Not good if you got a sailboat or you're trying to fly a kite, I guess. Okay, high temperature today, about 85 degrees. It may be a couple degrees cooler near Lake Michigan. Early morning, we're down to about 60 or so it does cool off at night. The moon is a little over half full right now, and if you look at it through the clouds there, it looks a little bit orangish or pinkish as it shines through that layer of smoke. Humidity drops to about 50% during the afternoon. Winds in general should be east, but only at about 5 to 10 miles an hour at most. Taking a look at high temperatures in general over the area, and as you can see, we've got mid-80s for Grand Rapids. A couple degrees cooler as you get down toward Three Rivers and Hillsdale and Angola and South Bend. It's actually warmer as you go north with Ludington up there at 85 and Big Rapids at 85. South Haven's high temperature at 79, so not a whole lot of difference between inland areas and areas at the lake. So that's Tuesday. We go to Wednesday, and the temperatures are about the same. Nothing much is going to change. We're back into the mid-80s. Most areas are maybe a degree warmer Wednesday than on Tuesday, but it should cool off at night. And you can see on the right side, we got the map there that shows upper Michigan, and temperatures reach to the low 80s there along the Lake Superior shoreline. So it should be a pleasant day there as well. And I wanted to show you Saturday, because Saturday we're in the heat. Wow, low 90s in Grand Rapids, upper 80s Kalamazoo and Three Rivers, 86 Jackson, a little bit more humidity there. Traverse City is warm when they get a south wind, and I think we'll have a south wind. Not coming off the bay, and so the airport there will likely reach the low 90s. Alpena also there at 93. And look at over on the right side, the temperatures there in the UP should be warm with lots of upper 80s showing up. Should be a very warm Saturday, so you might want to think about spending your day at the beach, the pool, or the water park. Don't forget the Grand Rapids pools are open, and that's a good place to spend the day too. 85 degrees today. We go to 87 on Wednesday and 89 on Thursday, probably close to 90 here for Friday and Saturday. No rain today, but there will be a small chance of a shower or thunder shower after Wednesday. We got about a 30% chance for Wednesday, 20% for Thursday, 30% Friday, and 20% on Saturday. We'll adjust those each day as we go along here, but at least know that there is a small chance of a shower or thunder shower here starting Wednesday afternoon and lasting into the weekend. The long-range outlook continues to give us a lot of orange and red, and that's warm. Temperatures in general warmer than average here. That's been the trend here this summer for June and July and August. So that trend continues. That's no guarantee that it's going to be like that this winter, by the way. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on. And look at Alaska. Alaska is supposed to be cooler than average. They've been on the warm side, and they will trend a little bit cooler here. Alaska, not really the scale there. It's actually a little bit bigger than that. Okay, we've got the precipitation outlook here. We're near normal. This is for August 12th through the 18th. I'm sure a lot of you would love to see near normal around here instead of the below normal that we've had. It's interesting that it tries to print out a couple of showers in southwest Arizona and southern California. Keep in mind that average is like 0, so if they were to get a sprinkle, that might be above average there. And we continue with above average rainfall through parts of the south and the east. And that's been the trend here throughout a good portion of the summer as well. So that's what I got for you here. We'll bring Michelle in, not working tonight. And I did not get a preview as to what you have for us. So You might have a question to stump me, and we might have some interesting stuff about this day in history. What you got?
Well, hello. I feel like I haven't been on in forever.
Well, Alex has been helping out.
Yes, Alex has been doing an amazing job keeping us going, and I've been producing behind the scenes, but it's great to be back. So, August 5, 1968, tornadoes in lower Michigan, and you would have still been in Chicago when this happened.
Yes, I was in high school.
Tornadoes southeast of Grand Rapids. There were farms damaged from Kentwood into Ionia County and damage east and north in the state as well. And we have a picture. Look at those cars.
My goodness, that's the is that an actual picture of a tornado?
It is.
Wow. And that is
Yeah.
just east of Grand Rapids. Where'd you get that picture?
One of the NWS sites had a little write up on it with the photo.
No kidding.
Hmm.
Wow. That is a
Yeah.
bona fide tornado. Now that's only a still. If you were to look at it in time lapse, you'd see it spinning around there. You can see the old cars there, 1968. We had a 56 Chevy and a 62 Ford, I think, at the time. That's really interesting. I did not realize that. August 5, 1968.
So, were you in West Michigan in 1968? And do you remember a tornado August 5?
I was in Wilmette, Illinois, going to high school at New Trier East, which had, I think, 4,000 students in one building.
So, records for the day, you already talked about this, but let's talk about it again. I have 100 for the hottest temperature ever in Grand Rapids. You agreed with me in 1947. And
That
then the
was okay in
coldest.
47. By the way, an interesting thing, we should talk about this again tomorrow because tomorrow's August 6th. The record high for the day is 102, and that is the latest we've ever reached 100 here in Grand Rapids.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
All
Never
right.
done
Well,
it after August 5th.
enjoy sitting in front of those fans. Well, you have
Well,
to, I guess.
and look at this. This is interesting too. We've never had an inch of rain on August 5th before. The record is 94 hundredths, huh?
I guess so.
Wow.
Hmm.
Cool. And the record, of course, for cool was 1978.
August 5, 1852, the Catholic Church purchased the land for St. Andrew's Cemetery. They bought 10 acres for what would become St. Andrew's Cemetery in Grand Rapids, which was the first permanent Catholic cemetery in Grand Rapids. It is downtown near Madison and MLK Streets. It is near the Oak Hill Cemetery, and there are now 5 Catholic cemeteries in the Grand Rapids area.
Well, that is interesting. My first thought was 10 acres. They must have anticipated a lot of people were going to pass away. It's a good and 5 cemeteries too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we had a Catholic cemetery about 2.5 blocks away from where I lived in Illinois.
Isn't the one at the end of our street, or is that a township?
Yes, no, that is Holy Trinity
Yeah.
at the end of the street there. There are a lot of churches that have kind of their own cemeteries if they go back into the because obviously people didn't travel as much as they did, so they didn't want to be buried 50 miles away from their relatives.
So, speaking of Catholic, another cool thing I found August 5, 1954. Did you know that Michigan claims to have the second largest crucifix in the world in Indian River?
Second largest?
And it was lifted into place August 5, 1954. Yep, it's the Catholic Shrine of the Cross in the Woods. And in 1946, the Grand Rapids bishop traveled to the area to survey to start a church. And as part of it, they decided to make this crucifix called the Cross in the Woods. It is 55 feet tall. And if you want to see it, they have a cross cam. That's what they call it, crossinthewoods.com. Indian River, if you're taking a trip up north, it looks like it's definitely worth a visit.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah,
And where is this Indian River?
Indian River on your way to Mackinac.
Yeah, which would not be too far off of Interstate 75.
And looking at the cross cam, it looks like it's pretty popular. When I was looking at it, there were people walking all around. I guess
Huh?
I'm the only one that didn't know about it.
I'm surprised 55 feet is the second largest.
Hmm.
That surprises
So
me
they
a little
say.
bit.
So
Wow.
if you're watching, have you ever been to the Cross in the Woods, and what was your experience? Tell us about it in the comments.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, August 5, 1763, going back a little bit more, the British took control of Michigan from France. So there was the War of Independence.
Mhm.
But actually, there was still French and British control of the Michigan area in the periods after that. Part of the Treaty of Paris, which ended the French and Indian War, the British took all of the French territory east of the Mississippi River, including Michigan. So that's
Hmm.
why we have so much influence in Michigan that's French and British, is because all of those groups were in charge of Michigan at some point in our short history. So even
That's
though the
interesting.
13 colonies became independent, they were still under British rule until 1796 and the Jay Treaty. And then the whole War of 1812 thing, there was more British influence and the land was contested. And in the end, we all ended up American, but we were French and we were British for a while.
I heard that Michigan was under four flags. We've got Britain, France, and of course the United States. What was
Hmm?
the fourth one? Or am I wrong?
I don't know.
Maybe it's just Sault Ste. Marie or something like that. Texas was, because Texas was the Republic of Texas,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they
Mm-hmm.
would have been under several flags. Well, that's interesting. August 5, 1763. That takes you back a little ways.
According to the internet, a Spanish force captured and raised their flag over Fort St. Joseph during the Revolutionary War.
Oh, okay.
So I guess sort of kind of Spain too.
Yeah, neat.
Okay, here's your quiz. August 5 is this astronaut's birthday. He was the first person to walk on the moon.
Neil Armstrong.
Very good. Happy birthday, Neil Armstrong.
He got married in my hometown of Wilmette, by the way, Illinois. Yep, one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind.
August 5, 1962, this pop culture icon of the 1950s was found dead. She starred in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and How to Marry a Millionaire. She
Wow.
married 3 times, including to Joe DiMaggio, which lasted for 9 months.
Wow, that of course was Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe.
Yep.
Very good. August 5, 1951, William Red Hill Jr. went over this waterfall in a self-made barrel he named The Thing. He did not survive, and stunts have not been allowed at the popular tourist destination ever since.
What a dumb idea. Sorry. That would be
Yeah,
Niagara Falls, right?
yeah, that was Niagara Falls. How old were you the first time you went to Niagara Falls?
Let's see. The first time I saw Niagara Falls was when I was a college student, and we traveled to Boston by air to see the NCAA hockey finals. It was about the only chance I had to see Wisconsin win something, and because they were not really very good at sports back then. And then on the way back, we stopped at Niagara Falls, and it was March, and it was cold, and it was snowing, and I was freezing, and I
But
was
it was
catching
worth it.
cold, and I was driving, and a headlight went out, and the Mountie pulled me over and said, "Your headlight is out." I said, "It just went out. We're a bunch of college students." And he was very pleasant. He let us go and said, "Just get it fixed." I said, "I'd get it fixed right now if I could.
Mm,
I don't like driving with one headlight."
mm.
So, yeah, but the Canadian people in general tend to be polite.
And it
We
is still an absolutely amazing tourist destination that isn't that far away from us.
Yes, it is. And, if you see Niagara Falls, that's one thing, but go see the rapids that are downstream of the falls. And those are pretty crazy too. Wow.
August 5, 1914, the first electric traffic signal was installed in this Ohio city. It sits on Lake Erie, and it's home to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I like that you give me so many hints here. That would be Cleveland, also known as the mistake by the lake. But I remember when I was a boy, they put so much pollution and gunk and oil into the Cuyahoga River that it would catch fire. Can you imagine being in the fire department and getting a 911 call that the river's on fire? But it
Mhm.
actually did that a few times.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting.
And a beautiful picture from Gull Lake.
Yes, and Gull Lake is a great lake. We don't mention much about Gull Lake. We mention a little bit more about Gun Lake, but Gull Lake is a beautiful lake. It's a little bit south of Gun Lake, and it's in part of two counties. The northern part is still in Berry County. The southern part is in Kalamazoo County. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's a little bit deeper than many of the other lakes around there. And it's a really beautiful lake. It really is.
And we've
It's
got the
good.
Fit Fitters.
All right. Hey, look, 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 look. I am eating cherries. Can you see that? If I put it in front of my face, you might be able to see it there a little bit better. I am eating Traverse City cherries right here from Mission Peninsula. I got across the street. A lot of the cherries right here in around the Grand Rapids area are almost done. We're already to August. But I love cherries. I really do. I love fruit. So I can I can be a pit spitter, okay? And a really nice picture here from John Scully showing what looks like a towering cumulus cloud. A couple different layers of clouds there. Pretty picture. And off on the left, that looks like another cloud there, though that sometimes could be steam maybe rising up from a power plant or something like that. But a pretty picture. And we appreciate the pictures that everybody sends in, John and John especially.
And like Alex says, be brave. Send us your photos. Be on the show. bill@billsteffen.com. We would love to put your photos or anything else on the show. So send it to us at bill@billsteffen.com.
Yeah, if there's something you want to see, maybe I could work on here. We're a little bit limited as to the graphics that we can use, but we certainly enjoy hearing from people. You know, I did TV for 50 years, and it's so hard because you don't get feedback from people very often. That's why I'd love to do public appearances, so I could go out and talk to people and ask them, what they thought. And nowadays, everybody asks about my cats. Who cares about the weather? Just how are the cats doing? I've mentioned before that there's one video of my cats on YouTube that's had 1.5 million hits. Million. I could have taken a can of Purina Fancy Feast or something, put it in the corner, and Purina would have probably paid me what, $30,000-$40,000 for 1.5 million views. Crazy. Okay. Thanks, Michelle. It's good to see you again. There's that picture of me with the snow. Again, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Bill Steffen 616. It is free to do that. We'd like to have you come along. And that's the picture that I took July the 22nd. July, not the middle of winter, but the middle of summertime. And that was at the Columbian Ice Field right along the road that went from Lake Louise up to Jasper in Canada. Great trip from holiday vacations. Well, thanks again so much for stopping by. Stay cool. And once again, have a great day.